Shemakes is an international community of partners and labs engaged in empowering women to innovate and contribute to a more sustainable textile and clothing industry. Shemakes offers a series of opportunities for inspiration, skills exchange, and networking. Shemakes has received funding through the Horizon 2020 program. For more information, see www.shemakes.eu.
Welcome everyone online. Very nice that you're all here, assuming you're all there. We can't see you obviously. Welcome to the panel and my colleagues, of course, behind the cameras. So this evening is part of the Shemakes project, and that's a European project that really focuses on enabling women to become the leaders and innovators of the future in the textile and clothing industry. And the upcoming hour, we will discuss how we can actually support these girls and women to actually grow towards these leading positions. Maybe it's good to know also for the audience online that there will be time to ask questions to the panelists. That will be at the end of the discussion we will have before. So please write down the questions you have so you can ask them at some point. Again, welcome to the three of you. Next to me, Ita Kempes. She's the founder and member of Made Here, the only tailors cooperative in the Netherlands, producing locally and enhancing the appreciation for craftsmanship. Next to her is Maartje Jansen. She is the coordinator of the creative lab at Makers Unite. And this is a social enterprise that provides creative newcomers development programs, enabling them to work in the Netherlands independently and work on assignments for their clients collaboratively. And there we have Roosmarie Ruigrok, and she's the founder and owner of Clean&Unique. That's a leading on and offline platform for sustainable fashion brands, designers, experts and suppliers, also supporting sustainable startups. And she's a project leader at the Gemeente, the Municipality of Amsterdam. And some days ago, I also spoke to Annemieke Koster. And some of the discussion, the talk we had will be shared in between. And she's the founder and owner of Enschede Textile Stad, currently the only existing sustainable weaving mill in the Netherlands. And I'm Ista Boshart, the co-founder of Textile Lab Amsterdam. And this upcoming Monday, we have our 5-year anniversary. So just have to say that we're really happy about that. Talking also about supporting women. Maybe we'll speak about that a bit later. So, before I let you speak, a short introduction what we're actually going to talk about. What is actually the problem? So, we see that in the fashion and textile industry, which of course is a worldwide industry, but we will mainly, I think, focus this evening on Europe or the Netherlands, let's say, that the majority of the workforce is represented by women. So, it's more than 70%. But we still see that there is really a big gender inequality or gender equality gap. So what we see, for example, is 14% of the major brands have female managing directors in charge, which is not much if you think of the 70%. There is still a payment gap when it comes also to the same work that is done by a woman or a man. Sometimes the work done by women is valued less, so not only in terms of payment, but also in prestige. Less women can be found in engineering studies, which is very important. We need engineers in this changing industry. And it's interesting because girls are actually heavily involved in mathematics, in science, technology, engineering, and are quite good at it. But when it comes to choice of studies, they choose to do other things. And it turns out that it mainly has to do with also the stereotypes that they're not suitable for the job. And of course, we also have less female entrepreneurs. So there are a lot of problems, and it's interesting to discuss how come there's such a big gap, let's say, between men and women. So what we're going to discuss this evening is how can we address this gender gap? Because sometimes also the way we speak about it becomes complex. I'm sure that will come up. What can we do about it, and how can we create enabling networks that support more and more women stepping into leading roles. And to start with, of course, I ask myself the question, can I actually recognize this gender gap? Is it in have I encountered certain problems, also thinking of the work I've done or maybe in my studies? And I was wondering, how is that for you? Can you think of an example of or a moment that you felt like, hey, I think this actually has to do with these examples I just gave? Can I start with you, Rosemary? Can you relate to this topic, to this problem from your own experience?
Personal, yes. I remember that in my first job I was hired because I was a woman and didn't ask so much salary. And that was the first thing I discovered in that moment. But I was very happy because in that moment there was not so much work. It was the early 80s, a lot of unemployment here in the Netherlands. So I was so many people from my graduation year, they didn't have a job, so I was very happy to have a job. So I think that also in the textile and fashion industry, when it comes to be happy to have a job, that makes also that you are also convenient by the offer you get in that moment. And I think there we can learn as a woman a lot from most of the men, because they stand and they say, okay, I want that salary, but we are so happy to have a job that we think it's okay what they offer to me. I was happy in that moment. I can't say anything, but when you start in a company and then you find out that the male, they earn more salary than you, with the same age, and then you start to think, hey, what's this? He earns more. And then with a talk with my director, he said, yeah, but he has another, he's in sales and you are at the buying department, is something else. So there was always an excuse why a man earns more money than the female people.
Yeah, thank you for this example. And I know also from research that apparently when women or woman gets a job, the first thing she says like, oh, I'm so happy, thank you. And that men often say like, okay, but can we then discuss the salary? So that's a very interesting difference. Yeah. How is that for you, Maartje? Do you have an example from your own experience?
Yeah, I do. Not necessarily about payment, but it was, I started working at a small fashion brand. I was hired as a designer, and it was a family company. And what I figured out while I was working there or started to work was that the men in the company were on operational and management jobs, whereas the women were at home. And I was hired as a designer, and then I wanted to change some things because I saw that things could improve while I was there. And it wasn't really appreciated that I opposed some changes. So eventually they let me go. So in that sense, I struggled with the power dynamics of men and women, and they were quite strong in that family company. So then I figured, okay, that's not really what I want. I want an equal treatment. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And how is that for you, Ita?
Yeah, well, personally, I haven't really experienced it. I'm an economist. I have a background in working for United Nations, for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, working NGOs, and I personally didn't experience that gender gap, not in terms of being taken serious or in salary, but I think, with all the years of experience of what you see in general, of course, is that, masculine, and I always find it difficult to say men, women, because I think when it comes to salary, there's a lot of difference between men and women, but for me personally, the issue is much more about like the masculine characteristics or values are always being valued more than the feminine. I think in general, when you want to make a career or whatever, it's always much more important to have a loud voice, to speak a lot about your successes, especially like I did all this while you have your whole team. And that is something you really have experienced a lot. As a woman, I don't know, I still don't think it's a woman-man issue, but I do think a lot of women tend to much more speak in terms of we did this. And you really see that if you have more of those masculine characteristics or values, you tend to probably get better promotion or being seen or being more out there or exposed. So I think in general, society feels that is very important. And as a woman, in between all of that, you learn to do it that way. But I don't think that's the way forward.
Yeah. So if I understand you correctly, you maybe don't feel hindered, let's say, so much by it, but you recognize that maybe so-called masculine traits or values are valued higher or seen as necessary.
Yeah, I think as a woman you kind of learn from that. I mean, whether you at university, probably at school already, but at university and later on, you learn that those kind of things are very important. But I think the world needs much more of the feminine traits than, and that's something even for women, but you have men that have them too. But it's difficult to go back to that part because society is not, everything around us, the enabling environment is not really taking that as serious as it should, I think.
Yeah, we'll speak a bit about that later. And it just reminds me also of a simple example that I gave earlier, but that in a room full of men where everybody was discussing and kind of shouting, and I tried to say something all the time, and at some point someone was like, hey, you just need to shout. And I made a comment like, no, they just need to start listening to each other. So that's just a small example also of my own experience. But we'll get back to this. So if I quickly listen to you, and I'm sure more examples come up, please feel free to share, even if it's sometimes a bit sensitive, because we all have masculine and feminine sides in ourselves. And often when I have this discussion, people say like, no, I'm not like that. At the same time, the gender gap is a reality. So let's see if we can navigate through those things this evening. So if I listen to you guys, when you really said like just unequal payment for the same job, which is really unfair.
Especially here, I think that in the Netherlands, but also maybe other countries, we don't talk about our salary. So it is also very covered, I think, this subject, because I'm not going to ask my colleague, hey, what do you have as a salary monthly? Because then what kind of education you had, what is your experience, how did you trade the stairs? Did you start somewhere and you climbed up, or you came already inside of the company as a manager, how you compare yourself with someone, and that is also very difficult, of course, because also you hear many times that someone is working for a long time in one company, and because of that, the salary raises. But if you, and then when you enter, you start in a lower salary. But my experience is when you are for a long time in one company, to make that salary steps, it's very hard, because then they say, last year you had already your salary step, so why to have another one? No, in 1 year you can come back to me. So I don't know if that is really true, because from my perspective, when you are inside of a company, it's slower, or you have really to go in another role. But otherwise, and what I saw in the fashion industry, in the manufacturers, and that was very nice to see, because these girls, mainly in the manufacturing, so in India or lately in Ethiopia, they ask each other, "Hey, what's your salary? We have the same salary," and they know from each other what the salary is.
And does that also support them in asking for a raise or?
Yeah, in some, yes, but of course in some countries you can't open your mouth, and also they are very happy to have a job, and especially nowadays with all the difficulties. Also, a lot of factories, they close down, and you see that the first who sit at home are the women.
And so that's another a problem. So it's maybe also is it care for why is it first the women? You think?
Mainly because they have this behind the sewing machines, this kind of jobs, and even men they can do as well. So what you can see in these countries, most of the time the people who iron the clothes are most of the time men, because they are stronger and also because of the heat. So they are there, but most of the time they also can go behind the machine and to make clothes.
Yeah, so it's their position, their job.
Yeah, and to stay at home for a man is most of the time not done in those countries.
And to also go back to you, Maart, you said so it's really different of job, but also the way you're expected to behave, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well, what I see now in my generation, a lot of young, ambitious women are high educated. They are very eager to change the industry. They are doing studies that are innovative and want to change the sector. And what I see is that that also means that they need to step up and say where they stand for, and demand that change. And sometimes it's not really yet accepted that a younger woman, is stepping up and saying, "Hey."
Yeah, so maybe similar qualities are valued different when it's a man or a woman. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's quickly take a look at something that Annemieke said. So we will have a look at the clip where she says something about, let's say, men and women and entrepreneurship.
What I'm about to say is quite, stigmatizing or generalizing. So sorry about that up front, but I do think that the male entrepreneurs that I encounter are more often like fake it till you make it, and I'm just gonna go ahead with it. And perhaps that was a little bit more masculine of me to just start a company without any experience, because I met a lot of women over the years that just really want to be sure about what they're doing before they even start. And I think there's a big difference, again, in general, and that doesn't apply to everyone, but women are more conscientious and think things more true before they start, and that can also prevent them from even starting. Because if I thought about it a little bit longer, I would never have started this company, because it wasn't really feasible. It cost a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of knowledge about sustainability back then. So there were more reasons to not start than to start. And I think that those bold moves you see a lot in men, but also at the moment, for instance, I'm at Munich Fabric Start. It's a fashion trade show, and actually our platform is only with female founders. There are some girls from Berlin that have a really cool initiative. So I also see a change, a shift in that.
Can you relate to this? I'm just who wants to respond if you recognize what she's saying?
Yeah, well, I probably can. So you just mentioned that Textile Lab is 5 years, and I was also part of one of the first meetings. And at one of those meetings, I met a group of really inspiring women, still quite young at that moment. And some of them I still are in contact with, and they are all really change makers, and they really fight for a difference in the industry. What Annemieke just said about the platform being the sustainable division at Munich Fabric start being run by women, or mostly women. What we talked about earlier also on the phone was that women are sensitive to what we see and what we want to change. So I think that's a quality of women that we can use in order to change. So in a positive sense. And I like also what she said about the boldness of men, and that as an entrepreneur, men tend to be bolder in their actions, and that she just did it, and just like, okay, I'm probably not a good decision, but I'm just going to do it. So it's really interesting how these balances work. So the sensitive part and the boldness and the empowering each other, being part of a community, strengthening each other, and also being an inspiration. Because what I felt at that meeting 5 years ago, I really felt, okay, there are like-minded young women who want to change and who want to stand up. And I think that really, I kept that in my mind. And I see that they are still also having the same, and we see each other sometimes, we pop up, and we know that we support each other.
If I understand you well, it's kind of confirming what you stand for, what you're interested in, but also supporting each other. So it's actually those two things.
Yeah, I think it's really inspiring to see women, not only from my age, I just don't want to put it that way, but also women in general in our industry. And I think Rosemary is also, what you're saying, starting to work in the 80s as a woman in the industry. We learn a lot from that. We know that, okay, we can make that change because we have the support of the network. So, yeah.
And when I'm thinking of what you were saying before, that we actually maybe need also a shift of let's say, the system, or to value the feminine qualities more. And maybe we can say, like, okay, there's a chance that the feminine qualities are more found in women. I don't know if it's true, depends also on nature, nurture. But let's step away a little bit maybe from that. But why do you think it's so important?
Well, I think because those values are really about things like, listening, like you said, working together, but not like just working together because we have a good marketing match, but like really working together on a more deeper level. I think it's also about, like helping each other out, really, trying to, but I think it's also about things like compassion, and that goes really more to the human, the human nature of things. I think, we have enough people who scream that they're amazing and that do amazing things, and that they have, even in social enterprise world where we work in. I mean, but I sometimes also see that, it's not always what it seems. And I think we would learn and find much more innovative and good results if we would really be transparent, if we would be able to be like maybe more vulnerable, but also really say, okay, I have problems with this. I don't know how my business model, how we really make it work. I find these problems. Well, how did you do? And I see in my day-to-day work, it's quite difficult to really talk about those things. Because everybody is, also the women, they have learned that it's really about, showing success. Also within the social enterprise world, it is about, because then you can get funds, or then you can, it is a lot about ego still. And I think if we could let that go a bit, maybe we then could work more together, and maybe we can be more innovative and find more solutions for the real issues that we're dealing with. But it's a complicated thing, because I think women at the same time, what Annemieke says, they tend to really, they want to know everything. They want to be really, into details before they dare saying something, which of course would not help you as an entrepreneur. So you do need to have, certain qualities like being bold, just trying out. But at the same time, I do think, let's just try to also value the feminine traits more, because then we can...
And even when they do that, they have still so many doubts, where you can see that the man already stepped over that doubts. Most of the time what I can see is a woman that okay, we made this decision, but we can maybe... And that is also a difference in attitude. I was so shocked. So this is my third career, the sustainability side of fashion, and I had a company. And in the moment that I started my company, I needed also some finance. And nowadays, when people start, they first think how I can find an investor, otherwise I can't start a company. In those days, I didn't have any money, but also to talk with the bank, or so to say, hey, I want a company, I have already some orders in my pocket, see what I already signed, and it's an amount, can I have some credit? And they say literally to me, sorry, but you are a single woman with a child. I say, and? I have here my orders. Yeah, but when something happened with you, who is going to handle that? Nowadays, you see also that investors want to have a team around you. And then I think, but there's always one or two people in a company who are on the barrier and move forward, and they are so motivated to go on. So, I was very in shock in that moment. And even when I had a turnover of 3 million, they even said to me, you don't get anything because... I say, tell me why. And then the man said, because you are a woman, single, and you have a child. So and I say, but my child, what has my child to do with it? And I have a company, I have 45 people in my company working for me, and you say this? I say, sorry, but I don't understand you. Later on, when I sold my company, I met the same guy from the bank. And he said, I was so impressed about you. I said, you were impressed about me, but you didn't help me.
And could he explain why? Because it really sounds that this is also about stereotypes?
Stereotypes and for the management of the bank.
Okay, so then again, it's also the system, the
exactly.
dominant values. Yeah. And do you see a shift? I mean, you said already, indeed, you started in the 80s in the industry. Do you also see a shift towards a more, let's say, feminine approach?
This I don't know. I see still these things Ita say about to doubt and to start to investigate and to do research before they start. But what I do is, and I like so much that in the first 10 years on Clean&Unique, we had indeed a lot of female entrepreneurs, and lately more and more men, they come also with to start a new brand. But I see that also these men, they are young or 45, 50, and they changed. And they also say, I can't live in this system anymore. I also want to change. So there is a shift going on. And this makes me very happy, where 15 to 20 years ago, I saw that it was really business-wise. that the companies say we have to do on sustainability, otherwise we don't sell the things, because also our consumers, they ask this from us. And now I have really conversations with men, also when they had a long-term experience in textile, and now they come, we have to switch because this is not the way we have to do it anymore. And that makes me hopeful.
Yeah, to see that change. Yeah, that's also something Annemieke mentioned. So let's see what she said about the definition of success.
Success to me is not always growth in terms of staff or revenue or things like that. It can also be stability, because at the moment I'm really working hard to have more stability in the company and to have more balance in my own work days, because I work too much and I really like working, but I know that I cannot sustain that for years and years to come. So it's not, the expansion drift that some entrepreneurs have. It's just having a nice little company can also be really great. And I think that I'm not too sure what Ita's plans for the future are, but I really like her company as well, because she really, to me as a relative outsider, I think that happiness is one of the core values in her company, that people have and enjoy their jobs, enjoy their day, and lift each other up during those work days. And I think that's a greater goal than growing and growing and growing and starting the 6th, 7th, or 8th factory. So, yeah.
Yeah, so what are your plans? Or can you confirm what you said also about the happiness and the focus on that within Made Here?
Yeah, I think in any case, I mean, we have quite a particular business model, I think, because we are a cooperative, so we do it together. And I think for us, I mean, everybody's talking about expansion and getting bigger, and and I kind of think, well, we need to get a bit bigger, but at the same time, it's also really about how is everybody doing, and for us, there's a lot of teamwork, so everybody has to be okay with the rest, and it's not even that easy to enlarge our group, because it's really about everybody has to still feel happy within that group. And I personally also don't think that is an ultimate goal. I think personally, I think that if we can consolidate and make sure that we have a lot of things really well organized, maybe it's much more interesting to be a good example for others to also become a cooperative. Maybe that's even, maybe multiplication is much more important than just getting bigger. But what I see, of course, as a social enterprise, is that by being small, you don't have the impact that people want to see, because you always have to be more impact. I mean, that's the economic model, but funny enough, the social enterprise model is exactly like old school economics. It's still about getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But is that better for the people themselves? That's my constant question. If I look at my colleagues, for them, getting bigger, bigger, bigger is not what will make them happier.
We often get also this question in textile lab, like, is it scalable? But why can it not be replicated instead and have like smaller local economies or local production?
I think for the people involved, in terms of listening, listen to the people. Really check if that ultimate goal that we have as our old school economic system, that might not be what people want. We are an atelier. We don't want to be a factory. My colleagues have experience being in a factory. They weren't happy in a factory. And being in an atelier is much more rewarding for them. Listen to the people, and that's... What would be more important?
Because of course we have this discussion also in the context of the textile and clothing industry and the sustainable industry. And could this be also really part of the vision on sustainability? Just not look at, because often it's about the environment, but what about the people? Are they all participating or indeed left out, as you're saying, or that you really need to fight to participate? So is that something to also broaden our understanding of sustainability, of success, as Annemieke is saying?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, because it's really, I mean, it's about sustainable, I mean, it's also about people. And I think, you know, really take into account, also when all the people talk about getting, you know, production back to the Netherlands, I think, but, you know, and then scaling up and having factories, but who wants to be working in a factory? A lot of people don't want to work in a factory. So, you know, what are we talking about? You know, ask the people themselves what they want. And that will not be the end result. And I think having that conversation and then looking, okay, so how does the business model then has to look like? And then it's a lot about balancing also. I mean, my colleagues also said, well, you know, we worked in some parts of our career, we worked like 60 hours a week. Well, we lost everything, you know, so what's happiness at the end of the day? So also, you know, they went through an experience that we have no clue of that experience, but it should learn us a lot also about, it's exactly about balance. It's about what, you know, what makes you happy.
And so I think also the discussion is layered, as we said in the beginning. So this is really about, let's say, more the system, the structure, the values, also the culture. But also take a step back. What is the role of women in that? Because Rosemarie, you have a lot of experience in that field. Do you also feel it as your responsibility to be there as a woman, or now to support, let's say, the younger women in this field?
Maybe because I was raised by an activist in women's rights, I don't feel this. It's in my nature already.
Like so, your DNA.
Yeah, for me to experience that some people betrayed me, not betrayed, they portrait you. Yeah, no, they force me in another way, or they say that I'm really in shock because it's totally not. But I don't have this with men, women. I don't have it with colors. I don't have this inside of me. So, and I think that because my parents, they raised us in one way, that because I could also don't see it with my sister and my brother. So I think that therefore I never took also this inside of me. But in my company, I had a lot of women working because it was very nice in management team, in the manufacturing place, and and we had really a happy time. And at 5 o'clock or 4:30, they went home, and they started at 8. Yeah, they had normal lives, and when they had to go to the hospital, they had to go to the hospital. So that was manufacturing here in the Netherlands. But of course, I saw as a buyer in other countries different styles, because I was a buyer all over the world. So it was also to see how the people were in China, in India, in Portugal, in Tunisia, in Romania, but also here in the Netherlands. So I create already in a younger age for, hey, all the differences. And yeah, I know that quality, quality of product, but also quality of life, that is so important. I saw also girls working so many hours, and they even can't go to the toilet because they have this piecework. So by piece they get paid. So I was thinking, yeah, that's crazy. Why? And so I did it all and that was also the reason why I started my own company and to do it by myself, because I was 28 when I started. Also in that moment, I was thinking, yeah, what happens in the textile industry? It's not my way. I want to do it in a different way, and they declare me for crazy. but I did it.
And so if I understand well, you encountered some things or things happened you experienced when it comes to the gender gap and the example you gave with someone saying like, no, I cannot do that because you're a woman. And, but at the same time, you kind of refused to almost behave like they were expecting to. So is that something you also show other people, to just not think in those terms and to just really from your intrinsic motivation do what you find important?
Yeah, this is always my message, because the fashion industry, you need a long breath, and so you have really to do what you love to do. Otherwise, you don't start in it, because I can see also many young people who create this imaginary world about the fashion industry, and then they face the true business in fashion. And then I hear that many people, they have a burnout in a few years, and so it has to be really that you are dedicated to it and to go on. But to work 80 hours, in the fashion industry, I hear many times people working very long hours. Also in management teams in the fashion industry, they make much more hours than maybe a normal manager in the normal company. But I hear this and I see it and I know it, that in the industry, in the fashion industry, they make many hours. So they think it's also very normal. In my first job, I went home at 7:30 in the evening, and they make jokes. Hey, you go home, you have a half day off. Because they were sitting also till 10 o'clock in the night, because they work with China, and the time differences, that makes also that you make more hours than, for this I like also the local industry, because then it's in the same timeline. You don't need to have excuses, also this kind of things. And then they say, you are a woman, you need to go home. So always this kind of
the stereotypes and
jokes.
The jokes. I think I can relate to that, very inappropriate sometimes.
But I've 10 years, when I had my company, 10 years, we never had this, so it was very nice and easy. And
And we almost go to the questions, and I still want to ask when you felt most supported, let's say by other women or in general, in your career until now. Is it the support of other people just being there? Is it something else is it the financial support? Is it acknowledgement for your work? Can you say something when you felt most, or when you feel most supported?
In the time that I had my company, there was also an organization, and the name was Mentorscope, and it was led by female directors. And I met some beautiful women in that moment, and they supported me a lot. And that felt very, very good. And therefore, also my mission now is to support through my platform also these entrepreneurs. And
then support, when you speak about the platform, is really creating the space for them to be visible, to be able to work, to also create the infrastructure.
Yeah, but also to warn or to guide them through to set up a company and not to make the mistakes maybe that I did, or how to handle, also to reflect on some issues, what they face.
Yeah. Because Annemieke also says something about this, so we will have a look at the clip that is indeed about support.
And in terms of support, what I did is I had little knowledge, and I was really aware of that. And I started meeting with many people, with designers, with factory owners, with weavers that worked in the old factories, just to share thoughts and ideas, get some knowledge, and also build my company on their experience. And I think that's really important, whether you're a man or woman, to help each other, to to always be open to learn from each other. So I always try to do the same when students approach us, or because it's really easy to say, I don't have time for this, I'm moving on with my day. But I really try to make some time for people that are in the process that I was doing 8 years ago.
So that's in line with what you were saying, right?
Yeah, but I think that we, as a women, we can support each other more, because we have also a lot of envy, and I think in the start of the ethical scene here in the Netherlands, I thought, hey, wow, this is a different kind of group, and now it becomes bigger, and that it's fantastic. But at the other hand, there's also a lot of envy, and I think, why? I don't understand why, because everyone is unique, everyone has their own skills, so let's support each other and do and overstep something. Yes, I call it jealous. So sometimes when I see also that someone has success, I think, I wish I could have that as well. But then I said, no, I have my way and she has her way, and let's support each other. But I have also to admit that sometimes you are in a situation, and then I think, hey, I have to support her more, because maybe she was not so nice to you, but let it go. I have to show that we have to support each other. But because that is, I can see that too less. Yeah.
And I see you both nodding. I start with you, then I'll get to you, Maartje.
Yeah, I recognize what Rosemary said. I think we can support each other much more. And that's also where I see like what I call the masculine values kind of coming through, where women who tend to do it like what I say, like men, instead of, just being more true to themselves. Because when I think about where do I get the most support, funny enough, it's from our partners. We work for a few brands, we make made to order, and all those brands are led by women. And I'm pretty sure it's not by accident. And they're also, all of them are women that really have the feminine values and energy. I mean, it's really, really there. So what I see is that that's why I don't call them our clients, because we're really partners in this. And I feel the most support, funny enough, and not really with other entrepreneurs that in the same field, because there seems to be like, it's complex. I don't know why. It's difficult to really go, deeper into how can we help each other, really help each other. And with our partners, that's really the best support we can have.
And before I come to you, how is that possible? Do you think it's a lack of time, or that you don't work on the same task, let's say?
Well, I think because, the way Rosemary mentions it's quite, people do think, you're, I don't know exactly, because there is this kind of idea that you have to show that you're doing good, or that you're successful. And so it's probably difficult for everybody to just say, okay, well, I'm also having some problems or challenges, or to really be open about that. It feels too vulnerable for everybody.
So not only about the salary, but also about the problems you encounter to solve them together.
Yeah.
And when do you feel most supported, Maartje?
Well, I actually feel really supported. And I actually feel that there is actually space to open up. I had a few really good conversations with like-minded people in similar situations, where we were able to open up and talk about the problems that we were facing. So I do think there is space for that, but on the other hand, it's true that there are some masculine traits of career status. You want to show off or something, like ego. But when I feel most support is actually with live events where we meet each other and where we also share the same energy and can connect again and embrace and celebrate what we are doing. So I think, and I missed that actually in Corona time that we could not meet. And this week I had 2 events and also was at Munich Fabric Fair. I saw Annemieke and you really immediately feel the energy that resonates, like this power. I feel the power of, okay, let's go. Let's, and also the passion that we share for our industry. I also feel that now, like I feel very empowered. I don't know. I don't feel that there's a lack of support or something, but I do think that we can embrace it more. And I think when physical events, return again, and we are able to better connect because female, we are more emotional and also sensitive. So I guess that also plays a part in physical settings. So I guess, I'm just.
So if I listen to the two of you, it's also a lot about just seeing each other, acknowledging each other's work, to really join forces, to understand that you have a shared topic or problem that you want to work on, and not just all by yourself to have the big next new solution. No, before we go to that, are there any questions? I mean, I have plenty still. Just a quick check. So for this moment, I have a few questions. Also thinking about this topic before we come to the conclusions. I'm still very interested why in this field we see more women. I'm also thinking of this event some years ago, the Future Fashion Pioneers of the VPRO. It was mainly women actually nominated, but also on stage. Do you know how come? And maybe you answered already, but I wanted to make it a bit more explicit, maybe.
What I remember from that evening, because there were a lot of men there during the event, and I think because maybe women are more on social media, etc. So they shared nominate on me, etc. But in the audience, there were a lot of men, and they were also stand up and ask questions, or they say something that evening. So I think that about ethical fashion, it's so the soft side. They see it as the soft side in the fashion industry. That this side of the industry is a showcase for the women, because it's okay that they have this soft side. But there,
Could it also be that maybe there's not, that the business model is less interesting or more difficult?
Yeah, it's not easy.
No, and I think maybe it could be that women kind of, for them, women, the feminine characteristics, they find it's more, for them, it's more important to be meaningful and to really do something, and less about, how profitable it is. And I think that could also be why in sustainable fashion and all that sector, women are more represented. Well, I don't know. I can imagine that it has to do with these kind of things, because it's really a difficult business model for the brands, for the makers, it is.
I also guide now 2 men who want to set up an ethical fashion brand, and they also app to me, say, Rose, do you know this? But my God, I can't find anything. But why I started this? So they almost want to quit already. They face only this little part of it, and I think that we move
I think
on.
for women, the meaningful part of it is can kind of motivate them to do it and to continue. And for men, it might, but really, again, it's women, when. I think it's more about feminine and masculine values, but really, yeah, I think it really is important in this field.
Yeah, no, and I can just speak from my own experience, and of course it's also a matter of age, but I also think that the time has changed, that before it was much more about this is the industry and you just need to change yourself to fit in, and now it's also much more like, okay, wait, what do we have, you know, what kind of qualities do we have around the table, and what can we do with that? And also, of course, a feminine quality is also considered the long-term planning and thinking. So yeah, I think if I listen to the three of you, and it's some with, of course, different experience or different working environment, but I think we agree that the female values or traits need to be cultivated and valued much more, also in order to be prepared for the future. And that is really important for both men and women, that it's much more also trained, that we see how we can collaborate, how we can listen, maybe think a bit smaller. And we need definitely the boldness and the goal-oriented approach, but then maybe for another system, if I listen to the three of you, thinking of Annemieke. But what would be also a next step then, because of course we spoke about the support, which we can do in our daily practice, let's say, but what other steps do we need to take to achieve that, to say like, okay, let's embrace and explore these feminine qualities or traits more in both men and women? It's about education, is it?
There it starts.
Finance,
I would say. You are young.
So it's also culture, how people are raised.
Yeah.
And yeah, can you say something more about?
Yeah, that all starts, of course, by respect from each other. And I think, I don't know, it was the 70s, because I remember that in the second class, I was 7, 8 years old, and we had one time that our teacher was really focused on your uniqueness. And I still remember this, because that was a beautiful conversation in this Monday morning talks, and you had really to explain your uniqueness. And I didn't feel anything about boys and girls, because it was about your uniqueness. And yeah, maybe also therefore Clean and Unique, because we, as a person, as a human being, we want to be unique. We want to be, as a brand, you want to be unique. And I think when you find your uniqueness inside of you, and you really start to believe in where you want to go, that you don't go into pathways someone is misleading you, and you because they say, but you have to do this. No, when you feel something to go, that you have to go. And I think that we have to believe that to believe in yourself, there it starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you nodding. I don't know if you want to say
yeah,
something.
well, it's really good that you address this, because I also feel that way, that that's why I talked about passion as well, that and you also mentioned it, you really need to have a passion in order to be in the fashion industry, but also knowing what your power is and your strength, and putting that into practice. So then also that relates to what you were saying, whether it's feminine or masculine or not, it's something in between. It's your own unique power. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'd actually like to end the evening with that, because I think also when you're rethinking a system, or even if it's in a smaller team, you always need to start with, okay, what are my qualities and what can we do with that? And maybe also as women to take responsibility for these qualities and show them and say like, okay, yeah, I need to rethink, or as once was told to me, like, yeah, I am sensitive, but it becomes my strength. So maybe that's something women can do besides the support and you said finance, raising people, and also I think keep discussing. And I think if I mainly listen to you, it's really important to make sure we don't speak about men and women, or you are like, because we all know we have all these different traits. I want to thank you a lot for this evening, and I want to thank all the viewers online. I think you can still respond. It would be nice to hear your thoughts maybe later on, but thanks a lot for tonight.